Who dat to the Who Dat Nation? Welcome to the Dome Patrol podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and we have breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. We have a monumental move that has just taken place over on Airline Drive as Derek Carr, the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, announced his retirement. And this comes at a surprise to many, but not to me. I made no bones or I made no secret that I am not a Derek Carr fan as a football player. As a person, I don't know the man, so I don't have anything personal against the man. But as the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, not a fan. And, it's not so much of his play, even though it wasn't the greatest. It wasn't the worst either. But he wasn't worth $150 million. That I think we all can agree on. It was more of his leadership. And as the starting quarterback, as the face of the franchise, you needed to show that you was a leader. You had to show that everybody on the team was with you, that had your respect. Derek Carr never projected that. Now, I don't know what happened in the locker room, on the practice field, during practices and whatnot, but it just didn't project that he was a leader. Drew Brees, it showed that he was a leader. And I know that's a monumental comparison, but just to show that leadership, he didn't have it. He didn't have it. Teammates wanted to fight him. The most glaring thing that I guess I can take away from Derek Carr's tenure as the quarterback for the Saints was when him and Eric McCoy got into it, walking off the field. And Eric McCoy is probably the most humble, laid-back player on the team. And for him to get to the point where during the game, he wanted to kill his quarterback. He had to be held back. He had to be restrained. That told you everything you needed to know about Derek Carr. Chris Olave constantly throwing, no pun intended, throwing Chris Olave under the bus. Oh, he was running the wrong routes and all this other stuff. That type of stuff, even if it's true, and I'm not saying that it isn't, even if it's true, that's not something that you get in front of a podium, in front of a room full of reporters and talk about. I'm pretty sure players ran the wrong route with Drew Brees. Drew Brees didn't throw anybody under the bus. And you don't see any other quarterback across the league, whether past, present, and hopefully in the future, that do that. They don't do that. Most quarterbacks will get up there and say, well, you know what? This one was on me, blah, 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 blah. Even though it wasn't their fault, but they'll take it. Not Derek Carr. Derek Carr would get up there and shift blame to every individual on the team except him. And for the life of me, I never understood that. Even when he had those games when he played like pure crap, pure garbage, he still would get up there and blame others. And I just could not get on board with this guy. I couldn't get on board with him. But it looked like those days have come to an end when the New Orleans Saints quarterback announced his retirement after 11 seasons in the NFL. Today, this Saturday, May the 10th, and on the year of our Lord 2025. The news is coming kind of abrupt, and it's kind of a stunning announcement for the Who Dat Nation. Like I said, for a lot of folks, and I'm gonna get into why I feel that is. At least I never felt that this was a shock. I knew this was coming. And we'll get to that. But Derek Carr did release a statement on Saturday when he said, upon reflection of prayer And in discussion with Heather, his wife, I've decided to retire from the National Football League. For more than 11 years, we have been incredibly blessed, and we are forever grateful and humbled by this experience. It's difficult to find the right words to express our thanks to all the teammates, coaches, management, ownership, team officials, and especially the fans who made this journey so special. Your unwavering support has meant the world to us. According to the New Orleans Saints, Derek Carr discovered the injury in late March while ramping up for the 2025 season. It marked the first significant throwing session for the quarterback since suffering a left hand injury and a concussion in early December. Carr previously noted that he's been in contact with the Saints medical staff since discovering the injury. Ian Rappaport, well-respected reporter for the NFL, he reported that Carr tried to use injections in rehab, but it wouldn't allow him to be 100% until another procedure. Surgery would jeopardize his 2025 campaign. Additionally, there were no guarantees that the veteran quarterback would ever return to the gridiron at that same level. Ultimately, Carr and his wife Heather decided that the best thing to do for all parties involved is to walk away from football at the age of 34 years old. Kellen Moore, our newly minted head coach here for the New Orleans Saints, he released a statement as well on Saturday. His statement is, obviously, this whole offseason, Derek's had to go through a lot as you go through this process. Making the decision to retire from the National Football League after an 11-year career, first of all, you respect and appreciate so much of what Derek has done in this league. The way he's done it, the on-the-field performance and off-the-field person he showcased, and the impact he's had on so many people in this profession is really, really special. Certainly, coming here, I've always had so much respect and appreciation for him. And as we're going through this process, obviously, this is how it ultimately was settled. It was really good conversation through the whole process as far as navigating this. Again, challenging circumstances with him being injured at the end of the year, and then just navigating things throughout the whole offseason and process. So I think Derek, the people that are part of his life, have communicated really well with the New Orleans Saints. This is still Kellen Moore's quote here. There's been really good communication, and so we feel like it was done the right way. You know what I noticed? You know what I noticed from Kellen Moore's statement? The word communication. If you was to take a shot, if we were playing a drinking game, and we would take a shot every time he said communication, you'd be drunk by now. That tells me, and now this is the skeptic in me, this is the conspiracy theorist in me, there wasn't that much communication going on. He's just saving face and trying to protect Derek Carr's persona here. That's what it feels like. Now, it could be true. I don't know. I wasn't in the room, but it just feels funny. And the way this situation played out, it just don't make sense. None of what he said here adds up or makes sense to me. Because either Derek Carr was not communicating with the team, or the team wasn't communicating properly with the reporters and the fan base. There's a lack of communication somewhere. I don't know if it was Derek Carr. I don't know if it was the Saints, but it was some real bad communication because nobody knew what was going on. You have to hear reports of Derek Carr has a shoulder injury from outside sources and all this other stuff. You never heard anything from the New Orleans Saints, never involving Derek Carr. But then you turn around, you draft a quarterback high in the second round. You might as well say first round late first round. That's what it felt like. And okay, now all of a sudden, Derek Carr doesn't want surgery, and then this announcement comes aboard. So it's just a lot here, you know. And then Derek Carr never said anything. There was never any statement given out when the New Orleans Saints hired a new coach. You know, just a simple, "Oh, I'm excited to play for Kellen Moore. I can't wait to get on the field for him," or whatever. You know, there was no statements. There was no appearances during the Super Bowl that was here in New Orleans. You saw everybody else for the team down here representing. Not Derek Carr. Derek Carr never showed his face, never made a statement. I mean, just throw up a tweet, something, anything. There was nothing. There was no communication. But I'm glad he talked to the team. If Kellen Moore is to be believed, I'm glad he talked to the team. And just to go through his little history here, he was a second round pick by the Oakland Raiders at the time in 2014. Coincidentally, Dennis Allen was the head coach of the Oakland Raiders then. He's the one who drafted Derek Carr. Derek Carr was a starter on day one for the Raiders and spent 9 years with the franchise as their starter. He compiled a record of 63-79 over there in Oakland and Las Vegas. He passed for 35,222 yards, 217 touchdowns, and 99 interceptions. He earned 4 Pro Bowl nods along the way. Derek Carr does hold the franchise record for the Raiders with most passing yards, completion percentage, passing touchdowns, and highest passer rating, as well as the lowest interception percentage. So for all of you who out there who say that Derek Carr is pure trash, he's not. I never said Derek Carr was a trash quarterback. He's not. He's a good quarterback. He just wasn't that dude. He just wasn't the guy that was going to get you over the hump, you know. But he put up some really good numbers in Oakland as well as Las Vegas for 9 seasons. And you know, that was part of the reason why when the Saints signed him, I was excited. I actually thought we were going to get something out of this deal because Derek Carr is a decent quarterback. He slightly above average, I felt, you know, but when he got here, it was something completely different. Derek Carr, he generated a 14-13 record while throwing for 6,023 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions in his 2 seasons with the Saints. In his final campaign in New Orleans, he played just 10 games after battling through multiple injuries. Carr, he completed 28 career fourth quarter comebacks, which ties him for 14th in league history. He's also tied for the most by any quarterback since 2014. He's tied with Matthew Stafford for that record. Carr finished his 11-year career with 41,245 passing yards, 257 touchdowns, and 112 interceptions. By retiring, this is the big part here as far as the Saints are concerned and as far as the franchise is concerned. With this announcement of his retirement, Derek Carr forgoes the $30 million guarantee this season on his contract. The Saints won't seek reimbursement for the $10 million roster bonus and signing bonus. You can keep that. To be honest with you, to be 100% transparent with all of you, he could have kept the 30. I didn't care. I just wanted him gone. It was time to move on. It was time to move on for both parties. I wish the Saints would have just did this 5 years ago. 5 years ago, the Saints should have been rebuilding. Actually, it should have been longer. And I say 5 years ago because that's when Drew Brees retired in 2020. It was time to move on. and get something in here, a nice young quarterback who at this point, 5 years in, would have been pretty good. Now, I say that, but it's all dependent on who the head coach was at that time. Because if it was Dennis Allen, it wouldn't have mattered. You could have drafted Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams or whatever. They wouldn't have developed under Dennis Allen, sadly. But that's predicated too. We needed to move on from that. We needed to move on from the Sean Payton era. And the Saints, for some strange reason, just utterly refused to do so. Since Drew Brees retired in 2020, the Saints have went through, 8 different quarterbacks? Let me count them. There was Jameis Winston. There was Andy Dalton. There was Spencer Rattler, Taysom Hill, and of course Derek Carr. Oh, Ian Book. Remember him? Ian Book. And you had Jake Hader. And yeah, 8 quarterbacks. That's the second most since 2020. I think they're behind the Browns. The Browns then had 11 different quarterbacks. And I think they got about 11 of them right now on the roster. But yeah, man, you couldn't find a quarterback. I can't wrap that around my head why they didn't have that in place. They never had that in place. They decided to give this man $150 million and guaranteed $100 million of it. And, expected him to be, I don't know, Drew Brees. What did you expect? I wasn't expecting Derek Carr. And I know I sound like a broken record, but this is the God honest truth. Nobody was expecting Derek Carr to be Drew Brees. We just was expecting Derek Carr to be better than Andy Dalton, to be better than Taysom Hill, to just a smidge, just be a smidge better than those guys. And we didn't get it. And to be 100% honest with you, he wasn't any better than Jameis Winston. You could have paid Jameis Winston a fraction of that $150 million and got the same exact production. The same. For all of you out there who believe that, I just wanted Jameis Winston to be the starter because he was black. I got comments like that, which is stupid, which is completely ridiculous. That has nothing to do with it. The mere fact is, it was the same quarterback, and you was paying him less money. The reason I felt you do that is because you free up some money to bring in other pieces to this team instead of kicking cans down the road and preserving these older players who obviously are past their prime. I don't understand Mickey Loomis' way of thinking, man. I just don't get it. Not Derek Carr, but Kellen Moore, he also released a statement about going forward for the New Orleans Saints, because this is going to be the big one here. This is the big step into a new era for the New Orleans Saints. This is Kellen Moore's statement. We're going to let these 3 guys roll, and they're going to earn these opportunities. This is what Kellen Moore said about the competition at quarterback going into this off season and the camps that's about to rev up. We will let Jake, Spencer, and Tyler, all 3, kind of go through the process. Again, we will play patient and let these guys compete. And for the love of God, I pray that's what they do. I really do, man. I really hope that they allow these guys, give them a fair competition. Don't just give it to Tyler Shuck. If Tyler Shuck outperforms Spencer Rattler and Jake Hader, all power to him. I'm all in. I'm on board with it. But if that's not the case, Let's be fair. Now, let's also be honest here. It's Tyler Shuck's job to lose. Let's discriminate the BS. It's Tyler Shuck's job to lose. They drafted this man early in the second round. Spencer Rattler and Jake Hader will have to go out there and look like the second coming of Tom Brady in order to beat out Tyler Shuck. Because this is Kellen Moore's guy. This is who he picked. This is his guy. You know, and so if they're pretty much on an equal level, even if Spencer Rattler, and I'm going to go with Spencer Rattler because I believe he's better than Jake Hader. Even if Spencer Rattler is just a nitch better than Shuck going to get the start. He's going to have to outperform him leaps and bounds in order to get the starting job. But I hope and pray that this is a fair competition. I really do. I think the sky's the limit for the New Orleans Saints at this point. This kind of lifts a heavy burden that was kind of hovering over the team, I feel, because I can feel the energy from the Who Dat Nation over the past couple of hours since this news was announced. It just feels like an adrenaline shot straight to the heart of the Who Dat Nation. People are excited. And look, I'm not here to celebrate this man's retirement. I'm not praying on nobody's downfall. But he was not right for this team. And now, do I think we're seeing the last of Derek Carr? No, I don't think we're seeing the last of Derek Carr. Derek Carr did not want to be here. Point blank, period. He did not want to be the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. All signs pointed to that. And finally, once he exhausted every resource that he can put out there, he retired. And if you don't believe me that he does not or did not want to be a New Orleans Saints, go on his Instagram where he announced his retirement and look at that picture. It's not a New Orleans Saints jersey. It's a Las Vegas Raiders jersey that he put in his locker. What more do you need to see? Since hearing it didn't get through to you, maybe visually seeing it will get through to you. He did not want to be here. And so I feel he's probably going to take the year off, probably do some commentary and whatever. Essentially, he'll end up back in the league. I don't know if he'll be a starter or backup, but he'll end up going somewhere else. And that can benefit the Saints as well, because technically he's still under contract for the next, 2-3 years? I don't forgot. But Saints will have to be compensated if he goes to another team. It'll effectively be like a trade, like with Sean Payton. Sean Payton retired, and he decided to come back a couple of years later for the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos had to give up draft picks because he was technically still on the Saints payroll. And so it'll be the same thing with this. And so, this was nothing but a good thing. This was a great thing. I wish him well. Honest, from the bottom of my heart, I wish Derek Carr well. I hope he gets what he wants. If it's surgery, I hope he gets it. Personally, don't think he's hurt. I don't think nothing's wrong with his shoulder. Yeah, I just don't believe it. It's not enough evidence to point to the fact that he is hurt as far as his shoulder is concerned. But there's tons of evidence to point he just wanted to get out of New Orleans. And so that's it. That is it for Derek Carr as a New Orleans Saint. I would love to know from the Who Dat Nation, how are you feeling? Are you kind of down by it? I haven't heard or seen one person upset by this news. I have yet to see it. And if you are, that's fine. I get it, man. I understand that he has his fans, and early on when he first signed, I was one of those guys. You did not find a bigger champion for Derek Carr than Kevin Reed when he first signed with this team, because I thought he was going to be just the nudge that we needed to get back on the road of relevancy. But that quickly fell to the wayside. But I want to know your feelings, and who do you think will win out this quarterback battle that we're about to endure for the next 2 to 3 months? This ought to be interesting. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Dome Patrol here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me as we went over the abrupt announcement of Derek Carr's retirement from the NFL. Well, another QB down. Hopefully, prayerfully, the Saints have their future quarterback somewhere in that room right now, whether it's Tyler Shuck, whether it's Spencer Rattler, or Jake Hader. We shall see. But until that announcement is made, I'm going to be screaming from the top of my lungs. Happy Mother's Day to all of you mothers out there. And who dat?